All right, and we're back. Number 3, we had to add the inverse. That's what we were saying. On that third value where it said to subtract, what do we get for our answer, Corey, on number 3?
A 1.
Positive 1, very good. Number 5, or number 4, excuse me, what did you get, Luciana?
-8.
-8, add and keep the sign. Number 5, Michael.
0.
Number 5?
Oh, -5.
-5 is correct. Number 6, what did you get? Joel.
5.
Positive 5. Number 7, that's 0, Michael. I think that's the one you were looking at a moment ago. Number 8, Kirsten.
4.
Positive 4, signs are the same. Number 9, Bryson.
600.
Well, how many negatives do we have?
2. Oh, 3.
3. That's an odd number of negatives, so we should have -600. There we go. Number 10, Griffin.
9.
Positive 9. Number 11, Ben.
-10.
-10. Number 12, Elaine.
12 is 360.
Positive 360. Number 13, Ben, be still. Number 13, Jalen.
-20.
-20. And number 14, Corey.
-7.
-7. Did anyone go 14 for 14 on that top section? So did anyone just miss 1 or 2? Anyone just miss 1 or 2? Are there any questions on those? I know this isn't the main thing we're talking about now, but still something we want to make sure we keep fresh in our minds. Any questions at all? All right, let's take a look at number 15 and read that for us, if you would, Joel.
Jim Bob borrowed $450
Dollars.
for 2 years at a 15 interest rate.
15%.
15% interest rate. Find his total to be repaid.
There we go. Now, when it says find the total to be repaid, what does he have to pay back, class? The $450, the principal. He's got to pay back the principal, but he's also going to pay back the interest. So the first thing we have to find, Joel, is the interest. With what formula, class?
I = PRT.
And so in your calculators, you should start by plugging in the principal. Well, what was the principal, Joel? $450. We're going to multiply that by his rate. Now, we're not going to type 15%. We're going to type 0.15. And then for the time, Joel, 2. And we just multiply those 3 numbers together. And when you multiply all 3 of them, Joel, what did you get just for the interest that he had to pay? $135. Right, $135. So if he has to pay back the principal and the interest, our final answer, the total to be repaid, Joel, is
$585.
there we go. $585 is correct. How many had that same answer on number 15? Questions on 15? Anyone just find the 135, forgot to add the principal back in? All right, questions at all? All right, number 16. Go and read that for us if you would, Luciana.
Sally spent $382 on a credit card. When she received her bill statement at the end of the month, she made a $35 minimum payment to avoid penalty, but was charged 21% interest on the remaining balance. What will next month's bill be if she makes no additional purchases?
Okay, so here's kind of a real life example here. When you spend money on your credit card, at the end of the month, you can and should pay back everything. But the credit card company knows oftentimes the reason you're using the credit card is maybe you don't have the money. So they say you don't have to pay it all off. Besides, they make money off of you if you don't. But you at least have to pay off a certain amount. It's usually like a certain percentage of the bill. So for her, her minimum payment is $35. Well, she, for whatever reason, couldn't pay it all off, but she at least made the minimum payment. So her credit score doesn't get hurt, anything like that. Well, if she spent $382, but Luciana, she only paid off $35 of that, what does she still owe the credit card company? This isn't the final answer yet. Just how much does she still owe the credit card company?
I think I did something wrong because
Well, let's do it correctly now. Get your calculator out. Let's find it now. She owed them $382, but she only paid back $35. So she still owes them how much?
$247.
Good. That's your first step. You've got to figure out how much her balance still is or her principal still is. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Do we understand the concept of a minimum payment? Again, not something we've gone over yesterday, so kind of talking it through now. Are there any questions on that? So her bill says $382, but she only pays $35, so she's already owing $347. This is her principal. Then the rate. And credit card rates are really high. Luciana?
0.21.
Good. Not 21%, but 0.21. And then the time. It says, what will next month's bill be? So, Luciana, what is the time? 1/12. Now, class, I told you an easy way to multiply by 1/12. It's not actually to multiply at all. Rather, class, just divide by 12. So this is going to be the easier way to approach it. So we should have multiplied the 347 times the 0.21 and then divided by 12. How much interest is she going to have to pay? And it's not really that much, to be honest.
$6.01.
$6 and...
1 cent.
That's not what I've got.
$6.07.
I've got $6.07. $6.07. Maybe reading the calculator wrong there. All right. How many got a $6.07 interest payment? All right. Those who did it, does it make sense now what we were supposed to do? All right. So the next month, if she doesn't charge anything else on the credit card, she still owes $347, right? She got to pay back sometime. She ain't paid it back yet. Plus, she's got to pay $6.07. So what is her credit card statement going to be the next month? Luciana, final answer? What would that be?
Do I add it?
Right, you add how much she still owes them, plus the interest they are now charging her.
$353.07.
Good, $353.07. How many? $353.07? How many got it now? You got it now? All right, do we understand the problem now? That's the big thing, right? Every problem that we work, do we understand the concepts just a little bit better? All right. Let's move on to the next problem. And read number 17 for us, if you would, Kirsten.
Georgina deposited $1,200 into a certificate of deposit that earns 4% interest compounded monthly. What would be the value of her investment after 6 months?
All right, so here we come to compound interest. We're going to work a little bit more with this today, but want to review it now. Compound interest. You're earning interest on the interest as you go along. So how many different payments, interest payments, is she going to get, Kirsten? That's going to be my first question. Within the time frame of this problem, how many payments is she getting?
Wait, I don't understand the question.
Okay, how often is the interest compounded?
6.
No, how often does it say the interest is compounded?
Monthly.
Monthly. Does everyone see that? It is compounded monthly, meaning she gets paid interest every month. Does that make sense to everybody? That's what compounded monthly means, is every month they're giving her more interest. Okay, how long does it say that this investment is sitting there, at least as far as this problem is concerned?
6 months.
6 months. So if every month she's getting interest payments, and we're only looking at a 6-month time frame, how many interest payments is she going to make?
6.
6. 1 every month. Does that make sense? So first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Everyone got that? There's going to be 6 total payments. And this isn't a bad strategy to go ahead and list this out, our different payments. Now, every time we calculate interest, class, we're going to use our simple interest formula.
I equals PRT.
What is it, Ben?
I equals PRT.
Make sure you're saying along with the rest of the class. So we're going to find her interest the first month. Her principal starting out is what she puts into the certificate of deposit, or the CD. How much does she put in?
$1,200.
$1,200. Now, what's her rate?
0.04.
0.04. But it's compounded monthly. So class, if time is a month, then here it's for the time we're going to put
6 over 12.
compounded monthly.
1.
What is a month, class?
1/12.
1/12 of a year. Everything in your brain has got to think in terms of years here. So if it's 1 month, class, we've got to think of that as 1/12 of a year. But again, 1/12 is so awkward. So instead of 1/12, we said, class, we could put
12.
divided by 12. Instead of multiplying by a 12th, just do divided by 12. So at your seats, if you didn't do this correctly last night, do it with me now. Let's multiply 1,200 by 0.04 and then divide that by 12. How much interest does she get the first month she's got the CD open? Anyone?
$48.
$4. Use your calculator. 1,200 times 0.04, then divided by 12. Should get 4. Nice and even number, right? That's the first month. But, class, this is compound interest, right? So when the next month rolls around, her CD doesn't have $1,200 anymore. Class, what does it have now? $1,204, because this gets added on. Now, it's not going to make a huge difference. Everything else gets done the same way. It's just now 1,204 times 0.04 divided by 12. Tiny bit more interest the second month. What does she get the second month, class?
$4.01.
$4.01. I know it's not much more, but every little bit helps, right? So that means the next month, month number 3, when it rolls around, she doesn't have 1,204 anymore. Class, she now has $1,208.01. Again, same interest rate, and once again, we're going to divide away the 12 instead of multiplying times 112. At your seats, don't call it out, just find the interest number. And again, it's going to be just a tiny bit more this month. Now remember, since we're dealing with money, we're getting into some weird decimals now, right? We always round to how many decimal places? 2 decimal places. So when we round, what do we get, Elaine?
4.03.
It's going to round to $4.03. How many got $4.03 written down? Okay, so now at your seats, don't call it out. Write down what the current principal is as we go into month number 4. What is our current principal as we go into month number 4? And I'm going to get Corey to tell us.
$1,212.04.
Perfect. How many have the same $1,212.04 Corey had? Okay, still, times her rate of 0.04, and for the time class, still divided by 12, right? Times the 12. All right, so now multiply it out. Find her interest in month number 4. And again, it's not growing a huge a lot, but part of it is because we're compounding monthly for one thing. For another thing, it's only $1,200. It's not a huge investment, but every little bit helps. And Joel, what do we get in the 4th month interest?
4.2.
It rounds to $4.04 now. How many have that same amount? Okay, so now at your seats, figure how much principal is in her account now as we go into the 5th month. What is her principal as we go into the 5th month? Bryson?
$1,216.03.
Excellent. How many have the $1,216.08 this time? All right, same thing. Times the 0.04 divided by the 12. And how much interest is earned in month number 5 of this CD? Griffin?
$4.05.
$4.05. Just little steps, right? Small steps, growing just a little bit of interest here. How many have the $4.05? Month number 6. What's the principal now going to be? And Michael's already got it.
$1,220.13.
Good, $1,220.13 times 0.04 divided by 12. And how much interest does she earn in the 6th month? Kirsten?
$4.06. Right?
I got it rounding to 407. Is that right? Should it be 407? Okay, that's what I had, was 407. How many also got $4.07? All right, so now we've already gone through the 6 months, right? It said after 6 months. So now that the 6 months are complete, what would the principal number be if we were to go into month number 7? It might just be a 6-month CD. She might be cashing it out. But what's the value of the account right now? Anyone? Folks, what do we do? Okay, there we go. There we go. Luciana's got it. $1,224.20. That's the value of the account after 6 months. Now again, we're not going to calculate more interest on it because it only said 6 months. But that's what she's got. Notice she put in $1,200, right? Didn't do anything with it. She just put it in. 6 months later, she's taken out an extra $24.20. Making money, doing nothing. You just have to have $1,200 to start out with in the first place. But there we go. Now again, is $25 a lot of money? No, but it gives you the idea of how this could grow in a savings account over time. Questions on the homework now. I'm guessing we did not have that just from general faces and reactions, but that's okay. That's okay. The point of the homework is to help you either get it, or if you didn't get it, realize you don't got it so we can get it now. Do we feel like we understand it better now? Okay? Flip back to the previous page. Flip back to page 11, and let's take a look at problem number 3. Problem number 3. We didn't get to this yesterday, so I want to go ahead and do it with you now, and then we'll get into some other stuff. Problem number 3. Go ahead and read that problem for us, if you would, Griffin.
Find the value of an investment after 3 years if the initial investment is $20,000 and interest is compounded quarterly at a 3% rate.
All right, I want you to underline the word quarterly. All right, do we know what a quarter is? Obviously, during the school year, it's one of our grading periods, right? Well, in a year, how many months would a quarter be, class? 3 months. 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months makes quarters of a year, right? So, for instance, January, February, March would be a quarter. April, May, June would be a quarter. July, August, September is a quarter. October, November, December is a quarter. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Now, how many quarters are in a year, class? 4 quarters in a year. So what would the time be for a quarter, class? But we don't do time in months. We do time in years. So if there's 4 quarters in a year, what would the time be for a quarter?
1/4.
1/4. Does everyone get that? Time is going to be 1/4. So as we do our I equals PRT, we're going to need to do 1/4. Well, we could do that, or class, we could just say divided by 4. Does that make sense? So I think divided by 4 is easier. You could do times 0.25. I think it's quicker to say divided by 4. It saves some punches of buttons on the calculator. Now, a lot more money going into this investment, right, class? Mm-hmm. This is $20,000, is that right? Is that what you read? Mm-hmm. $20,000. Interest rate's not quite as good this time. It's a 0.03, 3% interest rate. And we're going to have quarterly payments, okay? That means how many payments every year? 4 every year, right? How many years?
3.
It says 3 years. So how many total payments are we talking about? 12 total payments. So we're going to have our first, second, third, fourth. This is all going to be 1 year. All right? At your seats. I'm going to give you a head start. You do all of this stuff. I would write it out on paper, but do the math on the calculator. Let's just get through the first year and see how we're doing. You do the first year there at your seats. Let's see how we're doing. Always good to have a sheet of paper at the ready when we're working in the supplement. Have some paper out and ready because you're going to want to write these down. Keeping track of on the calculator is going to be real hard. You need the paper to help you keep track. For your first month's interest, you got $150. Continue the problem. Do all 4 quarters of that first year. As you finish each quarter, you can check and make sure you're good to go. You say, Mr. Dasky, I'm not getting that answer for the second quarter. Raise your hand, I'll come by and help you. Luciana, done with the first year? Go into the second year then. And there's 2 more years to go through. If you finish the first year, if you're just flying through this, you got the calculator figured out. Continue on into the second and third years. And if you're still a little confused on what we're doing, raise your hand, I'll come by and help you. And part of the key is nice, neat, clear work. What you see on the chalkboard is the way you should be writing it down. That way it's nice and neatly organized. You know exactly what you're doing. If you're just scrawling numbers at random, it's going to be hard to understand what's going on. So make sure you're neat in your work. Back to what he used to have in his account, or whatever, whoever it is, it sells as it is. You go back to what you have in the account plus that amount. And that tells you how much your principal is from starting the next quarter. Does that make sense? Yeah. How many of your first year is done and everything looks the same as mine? Your first year is finished. You've got all the same numbers I've got through the first year. All right, then as we start the next year, what is the principal going into the next year?
$20,606.
And 79 cents? All right, do we have him starting, or whoever this is, starting year number 2 at $20,606.79? All right, for sake of time, we're not going to be able to finish the problem out. I'm sorry. If you want to finish, I'll tell you what, if you want to finish on your own time, I'm going to give you the final answer. So if you're like, I really want to know what the answer is, here it is, final answer. Total interest ends up being $1,876.14. If you write that off to the side, all of you anyway, because I want to refer to this in just a moment. His total interest, $1,876.14. Well, if he invested $20,000 and he just made $1,876.14 doing nothing, by the way, that's almost $2,000 doing nothing. All you're doing is letting money sit somewhere. So if you have a lot of money, you can make more money. Anyway, so if you have a lot of money, you want to give me money. Anyway, $1,876.14, $21,876.14 is the final answer. But here's what I want to consider for a moment. What if this were not compound interest? What if this was just straight simple interest? Well, class, how much did he initially invest?
$23,000.
$20,000. What's his rate?
0.03.
0.03, 3%. How much total time was this investment?
1 hour or divided by.
No, how much was the total investment for? How much time? 3 years total. So if he only got one payment at the end of 3 years' time, how much would it have been? At your seats. Multiply that out. You already got it. What is it? $1,800. Now, look back at the answer I just gave you. How much did he actually make in interest? $1,876.14. If it had been simple interest, he'd have missed out on $76.14. Now again, you could look at that and say it's not that much. I would like $76.14. So the compound aspect of interest just gets you a little bit more because you're earning interest on interest and the principal, of course. All right, look, turn over to page 13 now. Flip over to page 13. We're going to be reviewing over these terms. We're going to have to wait till next lesson to do it because we've got a little bit off track here, and that's okay. We're going to be looking over those terms in our next lesson. But just skim the list for a moment. Skim the list with your eyes. If you see a term, you're like, ooh, I don't remember that one. Put a star next to it. Just skim the list real quick. And every one that you say, I don't know that I remember that one. Put a star next to it. Account holder. Who's that? The balance. What is that? What's a bounced check? What's a check? What's a checking account? A cleared check. Commercial year. Commission. Deduction. Deposit. Employee, employer. Gross pay. Income. Interest. Net pay. What are overtime wages? What's principal? Salary. Savings account. Tips. What's a transit number? Wages. Withdrawal. What are these things? Right? How many would say I have 0, 1, or 2 stars? 0, 1, or 2 stars. I know most of these terms. That's a good sign. How many say, I got like, 3, 4, 5 stars maybe? 3, 4, 5 different stars? Anyone have more than 5? All right? If you do, take some time this weekend, look up those terms. Find them in the book and make sure you look up those terms. We're going to be reviewing over those on Monday. Let's come to this next little check we need to fill out here. And notice what it says. This lady named Miss Your Name, you can tell her because that's the name on the check, Your Name. She paid $1,012.54 for a new dresser from Haverty's Home Furnishings on February 8th, 2024. Pretend that you are Miss Your Name. Or you can pretend it's Mr. if it's a guy. You fill out the check as if you are she. You fill out the check as if you are she. And you can make up whatever signature you think this person has. She didn't buy it for a party. What'd she buy? Yeah. You don't have to write dollars because it's already there. You just say 1,012 and 54 hundredths. Make sure you draw a little line at the end. Not 12, just 12. And you put the little word and in between, remember. So when you get to the decimal, right before that fraction, put the and. Again, you don't have to write dollars because it's already there. So you just say 1,012 and 54 over 100. There we go. All right, take just a moment now. Fill out the questions right below the check. What is the number of the check? What's the transit number or routing number of that check? And what's the checking account number? If you need to flip back a few pages, go ahead and do that. What is the number of the check here? Jalen?
101? No, no. 100.
1001. It's check number 1001. What is her bank's routing number or transit number, Elaine?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 0.
Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 0. That's her bank's routing number. What is her checking account number? Again, the first number tells you what bank, but then the next number tells you which account. So, Kirsten?
0, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Good. That's the 0, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 number that you see there. How many got all three of those answers correct? All right. Some quick questions here at the bottom, class. What is the simple interest formula?
I equals PRT.
I equals PRT. How would you write a 6.95% interest rate if you were putting it into the simple interest formula? Bryson?
0.0695.
Good. 0.0695. Excellent. How would you write a time of 6 months? Ben?
1/2.
1/2. Or 0.5, or divided by 2, right? 1/2, 0.5 divided by 2, any of those things would work. How would you write a time of 3 years? Corey? A time of 3 years. How would you write a time of 3 years? Class? 3. Remember, time has to be in years, so if it's 3 years, the time is just 3, right? So don't make that one too hard there. The next one, how would you write a time of 90 days? Well, anytime it's in days, class, we have to think of a commercial year. Stay with me. 90 days over how many days in a year? 360. So 90 360ths, but we can reduce that. Let's start by knocking off the
0.
and then we should be able to see it reduce this, class, to
1/4.
1/4, or 0.25, or divided by 4. Turn the page. Turn the page. You're going to use a calculator for your homework tonight. Look at the top box. Principal, rate, time. Simple interest formula, really quick and easy. You're going to use a calculator on it. That's part of your homework tonight. The rest of the homework is that bottom section. Here's what I'm going to do. That last problem about Bryson, I'm going to make that extra credit. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But if you do want to do it, there's an extra little element with this one because every month he keeps adding money. So he's earning interest and he's depositing money every month as well. So if you want to think through that one and figure it out, I'll give you the answer and I'll kind of talk through it next time. But that's extra credit. The other 3 you do need to do. I want to point something out here. And the first problem with Ben, it says his interest compounds how often, class?
6 months.
Every 6 months it compounds. If you want to jot this down, what is the time going to be, class? 1/2. If he leaves this account open for 3 years, how many payments does he get? 6, because twice a year he gets paid, right? Every 6 months, next 6 months, that's 1 year. Next 6, right, 6 total payments. Look at the next one. Griffin's college savings plan, 529 plan is what it's called. The 529, all that means is that's the type of savings plan, okay? It's a tax deferred. Anyway, don't worry about the 529. But it's compounded, class. Annually, compounded. Look at the word compounded. That's the key. Compounded annually. So what's the time? 1. Now, how many years is the account open? So how many payments does he get? He also gets 6 payments. Does that make sense? Then look at the last one. Kirsten has a savings account. Her interest is compounded monthly. So what's the time?
1/12.
1/12. But how many and how long is the account open?
1 year.
Or we're just looking at it for a year. Okay, so how many payments is that? 12 payments. Do we understand how to do those compound interest problems? Do them on paper, be nice and neat like we did on the board, and you'll be fine on the homework. We'll take a look at those next time. We'll drill over those terms next time as well because we've got a quiz after we're done going over all of that. So be prepared for that in our next lesson. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and you are dismissed.
Okay.